everybody, I'm Nina Soden, urban fantasy author of the Blood Angel series and the Sector C series, and today I am so excited to welcome Jeff Pollak to my site. Jeff may reside in Southern California and has for decades. However, he was born and raised in New York City. The idea for his debut novel, First Second Coming, was hatched on 9/11 as he watched the World Trade Center collapse. I cannot even imagine. His law firm conducted seminars there every May, and he had clients in the building at the time. Horrified by what he was seeing on CNN, a random thought came to him: we need a new god, a planetary turnaround specialist. In 2015, soon after he decided to write fiction as a retirement hobby, that same random thought from 9/11 came back to him. With it came a plot, character names, a backstory for the two main characters, and 3 different story endings. First Second Coming was the result. Okay, Jeff, first off, were you in New York at the time of 9/11, or were you already out in Los Angeles?
I was here in Los Angeles. I was watching on TV like everybody else was doing.
Okay. I had this, I imagined it, you were actually there in New York and seeing it, like, it just, gut-wrenching. Okay. So if you had to sum up First Second Coming in a sentence, what would that be?
I would say that the best sentence for it is: this is a combination of suspense, romance, fantasy, and theology,
Okay.
mixed into a unique adventure.
Mixed into a unique adventure. Okay. How long did it take you to write it?
You know, it's hard to say because I was working full-time, sometimes quite a bit overtime. So I was doing a lot of part-timing, working on weekends, working an hour or so per day, depending on when I got home. Once I retired in 2018, that kind of cleared the area for me to actually just do this. But I can't tell you how much time went into the 3 years prior to that.
Yeah. So how does it feel to be retired and writing? Are you writing full time now?
I'm writing as full time as I can, given the marketing that has to be done for the book.
Yeah.
You know all about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So right now, marketing is a little bit more time wasting or time spending than doing the actual writing. But I am working on 2 different novels at the same time when I have the chance to. One is a sequel to First Second Coming, and the other one's a spinoff.
Okay. So that's what we have next in store for your readers, are two others in the same world. So sequel and a spinoff.
Yeah, one or the other. I'm not sure yet which one will be first.
Okay. So I see the book there behind you. Can you pull a copy over here and show it to everybody? I love the cover of this book. It is gorgeous. Who designed the cover for you?
This was a work that I did in conjunction with my publisher and with the publisher's designer.
Okay.
And this is what we came up with. And it seems like a lot of people enjoy the cover and has received a lot of compliments, which is better than receiving anything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, who is your publisher?
Acorn Publishing out of San Diego.
Small publisher, big publisher?
Hybrid publisher.
Hybrid publisher. Okay. And how has that process been for you?
It's been great. It was ideal for me. I had sent some queries out for a period of about 6 months before I hooked up with them, and it worked out very, very well.
Let's talk a little bit about your writing process. What does that look like?
I am right here.
Okay.
My computer is right here. I usually have headphones on. I'm listening to music, not just any music. If it's music that one of my characters, my 2 main characters, Ram and Brenda Lee, each have their own musical preferences. And I listen to whichever of their preferences fits the particular chapter.
And what type of music do your characters listen to?
Ram is a big fan of Eric Clapton and his various permutations.
Okay.
And he even owns a Clapton autograph Stratocaster, which is his proudest possession.
Okay.
So when I'm writing in Ram's point of view, I'm listening to Eric Clapton or any of his bands or any of the collaborations that he's done.
Yeah.
When Brenda Lee has got the point of view, she's into Latin rock, Latin pop. She turned me on to a performer who I absolutely love, but I'd never heard of before, Gabby Marino. And so I will listen to her music when she's the one that's doing the narration for a chapter. And it helps. It helps me get into both of those chapters, both of those characters' heads. Although Brenda Lee talks to me all the time anyway, but that's a different story.
No, and I love to hear that because I'm the same way as a writer. I hear my characters' voices talking to me, telling me what comes next in their story. And not all authors do that. Not all authors hear the voices. Some have to plot and outline, and mine take the story where they want to go.
Did they wake you up at 4:00 in the morning to tell you?
Yeah, they have. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Brenda Lee's an early riser, so I have to be.
That's awesome. I love that. So are you a pantster or a plotster? Do you plot everything and write it all down, or are you a pantster, just kind of sit at the computer and see what happens?
I think I'm probably a mix, because in this particular book, as you said in the introduction, the whole plot came in one vast sum, and I just had it all down and outlined it, put bullet points in so that, 2, 3, 4 per chapter, so I knew what I needed to get in there. That's sort of pantsering. That's a new word, by the way, pantsering. On the other hand, once Brenda Lee started getting into my head and was telling me what was going on, it wasn't exactly what was on the outline. Right. So I went with her. She's closer to the action than my outline is. And so that is more just going with the plot. Her plot is somewhat more than my plot.
Right. So when did First Second Coming actually get released?
August 1st.
And how have sales gone? Are people engaged? Are they buying it? Are they liking it? What are you getting in terms of feedback?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of positive reviews. On Amazon and Goodreads, the last I looked at it, it was 4.6 out of 5.
That's great.
Which is great, yeah. And just a few days ago, Literary Titan magazine came out with a review for me, which was a 5-star review.
I actually have that right here, and it is fantastic. I think my favorite is the last line, which says, First Second Coming is a captivating adventure novel that touches on some deep themes while never forgetting to entertain readers with a bit of romance and a touch of humor along the way. That is awesome. And just reading it, they have a little synopsis of it and then a great review. It's a beautiful review. Definitely one you're going to want to keep.
Yeah, I was stunned, actually. I was expecting, a decent review, but I wasn't expecting a glowing one.
Yeah.
And I was I'm still really happy about that.
That's a great review. So what is the most challenging part of being an author? Now that you've done it both part-time while you were working and full-time after retirement, what do you find is the most challenging aspect?
For me, it was getting that first chapter right.
Okay.
I did, I think, something like 12 or 15 first chapters.
Ooh, yeah.
And I could see that they weren't, each one had its own different weaknesses, and you just can't have that in the first chapter. Readers are not going to continue to read. Yep. I finally dawned on me that a short story that I had done just as an exercise, I was trying to emulate Douglas Adams in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, his writing style. So I just did this as an exercise, and it struck me finally after 15 chapters that if I just made a few alternations, that could serve as the first chapter. And it worked. The readers who have been sending reviews back have basically said that was taken from the first page to the last. So it seems to have worked.
That's awesome.
Just took me forever to figure that out.
That's right. That's okay. That's okay. Do you have any advice for people that are just starting out and just trying to tap into their inner story or their inner writer?
Yeah, being patient and not being stressed out by what appears to be failure or appears to be difficulty is really the best thing. I mean, it takes, especially if you're a new author, it takes a while to get the pattern, to get the craft down, to understand what you're doing, to be more efficient at it. And it just doesn't happen immediately. It's not something you can just walk in one day and say, well, I think I'm going to be an author, and 2 days later have your novel ready. No, that doesn't
Wouldn't it be nice though? That would be great. No, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. So I think just being patient and learning and making the mistakes that you're going to make as an amateur, as a new author, and just getting through the process, learning on your way, and finally getting there is the best way to go.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the writers that you follow. Who inspires you? Who made you love reading, if you love reading, and who influences your writing?
I don't know if anybody influences my writing or not. I did do a master class with Neil Gaiman, and I think that if anyone does influence me, it's him. He's certainly one of my favorite authors, but Haruki Murakami is another one. David Mitchell. I'm just astounded by his writing skills. I don't know if you've read him or not.
I have not.
Read The Bone Clocks. You'll be absolutely stunned.
Okay.
You'll read certain sentences and paragraphs, passages over and over and over again just to figure out how he did it.
Yeah.
But he's just tremendous. Ian Pears is another. I just seem to be focused mostly on English writers for some reason, but he's
like what we like.
Yeah, he's also just a really good. And the thing about him is he switches genres, but he does it all in a spectacular fashion. The first of his books that I read is called An Instance of the Finger Post, which the title doesn't
give anything away, or
it was when I came across it in a bookstore, it was like, what is this book about? And what's a finger post?
Yeah.
What's an instance of a finger post?
Well, it caught your attention. The title did what it was supposed to do.
It got the job done. I read the book. I was absolutely stunned by it because it's a historical fiction mystery.
Okay.
And it's divided into 4 chapters, and each of the 4 chapters has a separate point of view of people who are involved in it. You would assume from what you're reading that this is 4 entirely different mysteries, and it all comes together at the end. And he was just astounding.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So those are some of the guys, and then Terry Pratchett is also another one.
Okay. What are you currently reading?
I'm reading a nonfiction book at the moment called Compromised. It's the Peter Strzok book about his work in the FBI, handling with the Trump campaign and the Russian connection.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. I'm sure that won't be influencing your books much.
I'm actually reading it for research.
Really?
My second book, yeah. I need to have a better feel for what goes on in that area for that book.
Okay. So if you could pick any 2 actors to play your lead characters in a movie, who would you pick?
Hannah John Kamen. When I first came across her photo when I was just kind of absentmindedly looking to see if I could find any actresses that resembled Brenda Lee at all. She's born in England, but her parents are, I think, Norwegian and somewhere in Africa. And I don't remember if the father versus the mother, but even though she doesn't have any Latin blood or influence or genre, a genetic influence, she looks exactly like I always pictured Brenda Lee.
That's great.
And so I would certainly want her to be at least given the ability to try out for the audition for the position. As for Ram, I did the same search. I came up empty. So I don't really have an actor to name for you for him.
Okay, no worries, no worries. If you did not, well, I guess I could ask, what did you retire from? What was your career prior to this? It was law? Were you a lawyer?
Yeah, trial lawyer.
Okay. Yeah. Has that career influenced your writing at all?
Yeah, I guess it has. It's influenced my editing really more than my writing, because most people, if they watch TV, I don't think they get a sense of how much writing goes into trial work.
Yeah,
there's a ton of it, and I won't bore you with the details about that. But
my sister's a lawyer and does that, so I've heard. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's not easy.
It is, and when you're writing to a jury, a judge, or to an appellate court, you have to get it right, and you have to be concise, and you have to be doing a lot of things that don't translate well into fiction, but they do translate into editing. Mm-hmm. Because you can't have an extra word, you can't have the wrong word, you need to have exactly the word that you intend. And I've been doing that for 30 years, 35 years, whatever the number is now. And you get into the habit of having a very high bar for anything that you're sending to court. And, I've seen some horrible stuff from my opposing counsels from time to time. And I just wonder about, do they even care about the impression they're making on the judge? But the judges would constantly be giving me feedback of, they were really impressed by my motion. And so although they enjoyed reading it, they deny the motion. But at least I got it.
We enjoyed reading it, but no.
It didn't. Yeah, we enjoyed reading it, but it didn't change our opinion. Okay. So anyway, I carried that over to the novel.
So do you find that?
Right.
Did that make it harder to get to your final version because you were constantly trying to edit it, or did you find that made it easier to get to the final version, being so meticulous?
Yeah, it probably was the latter. I mean, the former. It took a while. I did 9 drafts. I don't know if that 9 drafts is better or worse than what other people do, but that's what it took me to do. And I think of editing like picturing Michelangelo's statues. I'm forgetting the name of it now, but he had a block of marble, mm-hmm. and the Pietà, and he turned it into the best sculpture ever created. And I try to do something similar with my book. So I'm not going to have a Pietà out of it, and it's not going to be made of marble, but I really have a very high standard for getting it the way I want it to be. Mm-hmm. And so it takes a long time, and that's going to be with me forever, because I can't really do it any other way. I don't want to do it any other way.
Well, and I think really ultimately we have to put out a book that we're proud of as authors and that we're happy with, because you cannot please every reader. Not every reader is for your book. And, you just, as long as you're happy with it. And I think that that's really the true testament is, are you putting out a book that you're proud of, that you're happy with? And if you are, then you've done your job.
I completely agree with you. I have exactly the same attitude.
Yeah.
If it's not good enough for me, it's not good enough for anybody else.
That's right. That's right. And you're still not going to please everybody.
That's right.
You can't, you just can't. So you just have to be proud with the work that you've done. And I think that that's one of the things that has kind of kept me strong in writing, is that I'm not going to put anything out there that I wouldn't want to read, that I wouldn't be proud of. And I think most authors that hold any weight are going to tell you the same thing. It's, you have to be proud of your own work. You have to be the final judge.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. So you are working on 2 novels simultaneously right now, the sequel and a spin-off. Which one is going to be released first, and how far along are you in that process?
I'm pretty early on in both of them, so I really can't tell you at this point which one is going to wind up getting first dibs. I'm just sort of waiting for one or the two of them to sort of take off and basically tell me which one is going to be first.
Which one pulls more of your focus right now?
Right at this moment, I'm a little bit more focused on the spin-off, which is the working title for it is the Recycling Center.
Okay.
And the other one, the working title is Earth's Peril. In Earth's Peril, we are in the second book of the New God series.
Okay.
And in the Recycling Center, we have an entirely different cast of characters other than the New God, who is also still there.
Okay. Very cool. And where do you see this going? Is it going to be a long-term series? Is it a 2 books and done? Or do you have a envisionment for where that might go?
I sort of do. I'm not sure how many books this is going to take, but basically what's going on is the New God is here in 2027, taking over from our current God, who's retired. And he has a lot of things to do to get us back on track. And so there are a lot of global issues that we have created as the prominent species on Earth, and we have to get through fixing them. So this next novel is going to have either 2 or 3, more likely 2, which come together and actually one is climate change and the other is overpopulation.
Okay.
And those 2 things actually do work together, because the more people we have, the more energy we use, and the more energy we use, the more we need oil or gas or solar or whatever. So those things actually work in one book.
So you really do take on these global issues that are relevant today, and you put them into this book.
Right.
That's pretty fascinating. When I first read the review and a little bit about the book, and it's, God's retiring and basically his replacement is coming along, it reminded me instantly of the TV show Lucifer, where the devil retires.
Right.
And all of the things that happen because of that. So do you at all address or show anything on a more local scale rather than that big global scale? Locally, what happens when God retires? Are there any of those little issues that pop up, or is it all massive global issues that are addressed?
Well, the global issues are there, but I don't think from an entertainment standpoint, you can focus on those. I mean, they're in the background, but you know that they're there as a reader, and what you're really focusing on is the journey of the main characters. So I used romance for that,
Okay.
and also then the convocation that takes place that they have to participate in, where 400 people come from all over the world, 39 different religions, and they all have to work together to eliminate religious violence within 60 days.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. Within 60
Or,
days
or extinction.
or extinction.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not going to ask the ending because I want to read it and I don't want to know what happens, but clearly it continues because there's a book 2 coming, so that's a good thing. Is there anything about the story that surprised you while you were writing it that you said, oh, wow, okay, that's where we're going, or something that just shocked you, or looking back, if you've read it after you published it, did anything in the book surprise you that you wrote it?
There were so many things. I mean, this was my first book, so this is my first journey.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't expect Brenda Lee in my head. I didn't expect all sorts of things, but it's just amazing what sorts of things took place.
Yeah.
And if I can give you one example.
Please.
In one of my chapters, there's a speech that's being given by the new God. And he's quoting from different things. He's quoting from Martin Luther King. He's quoting from the Dalai Lama. He's quoting from John Kennedy. He's quoting from the first of the world's parliament of religions that took place in 1892 by a Swami who was one of the people who was a speaker there. And so I have a quote from that. I can't actually pronounce his name, so I want to try it. But it's in the book. And it was in the book for a while, and then much later in the editing process, I'm at a conference. We're at a banquet, Saturday night banquet in the conference. The gal sits down next to me. I'd never met her before. We start talking. We become friends. A few months later, she calls. She's upset. She's just lost a good friend of hers. The good friend of hers was a co-founder or co-refounder of the World Parliament of Religions.
All right. There's always a connection.
How does that happen? And when I tell her, she suggested I should go to the next one, which was in Toronto in 2017. And I went.
Okay.
And so I'm talking to, they had 8,000 people there. And this is all part of the interfaith movement. So I'm talking, and it's a 7-day process. I spoke to 100 or more people, all different religions. So I'm getting all sorts of religious research done. I'm asking them what they think about my book, how they would react to it within their religion. So I'm getting some marketing input too.
Yeah.
And that's just one of really so many strange things that happened during the course of writing this book. It's one of the strangest of them, but it's one of the stranger ones. And I was just astonished. How do you have that happen?
Yeah, that amazes me. And I think that things happen for a reason. I think that there's connections for a reason, and clearly she was put into your life for that connection.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And it definitely leads into my next question, which was going to be, how much research do you do for your books? Clearly a lot. I mean, clearly you have to do quite a bit of research. And I imagine that talking to those people not only influenced how you market your book, but also influenced the thought process behind your book, I would imagine.
Yeah, it did. I'm not religious, for one thing. And so having I'm still wondering how it is that it came to me that I'm writing a book that has 39 different religions in it.
Yeah.
Kind
A book
of,
about God retiring coming from somebody who isn't religious is pretty interesting.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
a message right there, some form of message. I'm interested to read the book to find out what exactly I pull out of that. Because I would have definitely thought you were a religious person just
well,
because of the story behind it.
yeah. I think that's a natural, and a number of the reviews that I have seen have basically said, well, they think I'm a religious expert. Um, my editor thought that too.
Hmm.
And I did a lot of research. A tremendous amount of research on religions, more than one religion, and also atheism. And so I learned a lot. But if I hadn't had to do all that research in order to get it into the book, and very little of it actually wound up in the book, but it just was necessary to get the product right.
Yeah, I wonder if the same story would have been as successful with somebody who was overly religious and had ultimate faith in what their religion is, because I wonder if they could be as open to look at all of the different religions and do that research and be accepting of that information to write the book.
I've had that same question in my mind. I think the objectivity that I bring to it, I think, really helps. If you're Catholic or Buddhist or whatever, you're tied emotionally to that outlook and to that thing, and you can't judge it.
Right. You can't judge it, and you can't openly accept what other people have to say about their religion, I don't think, necessarily. Not in a way where you can accept that information enough to be objective and put it into your story or have it influence your story in whatever way it's meant to. So I find that interesting. I find that fascinating, and maybe that's the reason the story came to you.
Who knows what the reason was, but it did come to me, and it just poured out and took off.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. So is there anything else before we kind of wrap up these questions? Is there anything else we haven't talked about that you would like my viewers to know about you or about your story?
I could put a lot of things in here. I think I'm interested. I'm intrigued by your James Lipton questions.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and go to that.
Okay, so I end all of my interviews with James Lipton's Inside the Actors Studio questionnaire in honor of him. I loved that series. I loved watching those interviews, grew up watching them. So we will jump right in. There are 10 questions. My only advice is answer what comes to the top of your mind. Don't think about it. And there are no wrong answers. Okay?
Go for it.
What is your favorite word?
Retrocessionaire.
Retrocessionaire. All right. What does that mean?
You have to be in the insurance business to be able to understand that. I represented a lot of insurance companies and so forth at what point in my career. A retrocessionaire, when you buy an insurance policy, there is reinsurance behind that policy. So the insurance company is sending part of the risk off to a reinsurer.
Okay.
And the reinsurer is then sending part of its risk off to a retrocessionaire.
Okay. Awesome word. I'm going to have to use that.
Yeah, it just flows.
It just flows. All right. What is your least favorite word?
Towards, with an S at the end.
Towards. All right. Yeah. What turns you on?
Music.
What turns you off?
The lack of music. No, opera.
Opera. That's music, isn't it?
I have trouble believing that.
What sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of a piano or a guitar doing a riff during the bridge of a song or at the introduction or the outro.
Okay. What sound or noise do you hate?
Anything that is involved in chipping concrete.
Okay, yeah. What is your favorite curse word?
I don't think I have one. I don't use them.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you Brendele's. Mierda.
Mirda, okay. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
This is my second one. I will say travel agent.
Ooh, okay, I like that. What
Get to,
profession would you not want to do?
I would like to not be the guy who is chipping the concrete.
Okay. All right. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh, I'm already up there. It exists in my book. So,
Okay.
and it's not where you think it would be. But I would like him to say, "Hello, Jeff. Would you continue to write your book, please?"
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, that is my 10 questions. That is James Lipton's 10 questions. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and doing this interviewing with me and sharing your story with all of my viewers. I'm going to share links to Jeff's books or book and all of his social media, anywhere you can find him, down in the description below. So if you have not yet read For Second Coming, make sure you pick up a copy. And thank you so much for taking time to do this interview with me. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Thank you very much, Nina. I really did appreciate it. You're a very talented interviewer and reader and novelist, excuse me. And I had a blast. Very much fun. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.